everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Danielle, and this is my channel, A Sprinkle of Joy. Today I wanted to share with you another video of what my family ate for the week. I did this a few months back, and it really seemed to go over well, so this time these are all recipes that are more geared towards the summer. I hope that you enjoy, and thanks as always for watching. Right, so we are starting this recipe off with ground beef kebabs, or they're also called kaftas. So we usually have pita bread with them, but this time I wanted to try to make naan, and Autumn ended up helping with this as well, and we did this the day before. Now, these kebabs are a Middle Eastern dish, like I said, that are often called kafta. I tend to call them hamburger kebabs, since my kids are more likely to try them if they're called something that's familiar to them. So this particular recipe is just made up of some rosemary and some onion and garlic. You kind of mince it all up. And then after you're done mincing it up, you mix that in with your ground beef. So this isn't my particular recipe. I got it from a book called Meat, and I'll link that below. But I'll see if I can find some other recipes that are similar. But if you just Google ground beef kaftas, then I'm sure you will find something that's really, really good. Like I said, you're just kind of mixing all of these ingredients in together. And I also threw in a little bit of salt and cumin and a little bit of pepper. And then what you do is you kind of form them into long, oblong shapes around a skewer that has been soaking in water. So this is about how they look. There's no real rhyme or reason to how much you use. You just kind of throw it on. And then you annoy your husband while you film him helping grill them. And then usually when we serve these, like I said, we serve them with pita bread, and this time we use naan, which didn't turn out quite as good as I wanted, so I probably won't try that again. Then I also made a homemade garlic dip and some hummus, and then a couscous salad that kind of reminded me of tabbouleh. But overall, a delicious meal. So one meal that Matt said he had wanted was some stuffed peppers. So I started earlier in the day by making the rice, and I used a beef broth that I had made in the winter using some soup bones. And then once again, when I was doing this, Autumn asked me if she could help. So I definitely took her up on that. I have been loving having the girls helping me in the kitchen a little bit with dinner. I think it's teaching them great skills that hopefully they'll be able to use later in life. So I put her on ground beef duty. And then while she was doing that, I was cutting everything up. So I had some leftover corn on the cob that we had, and I decided I was just going to cut the corn off so I could use that for the filling in the stuffed peppers. Then I also had a random jalapeno, so I decided I would slice that up and throw that in to the filling as well. Then I also used some onion and tomato and I thought I had filmed myself cutting them up, but apparently I did not. So you will just have to trust me that I did indeed also include onion and tomato in my filling. And then don't forget, I also had the rice that I had made earlier in the day that I mixed in with this filling. So now the ground beef is getting all nice and cooked. And so we're throwing in all of those veggies that I had sliced up. And then while Autumn was mixing those up for me, Annabelle also wanted to help. So she came in and she started to cut the bell peppers in half for me. And I didn't show this, but I also have included the rice in with the beef. And then I am just throwing in about 2 to 3 teaspoons of taco seasoning. I think I maybe put a little bit too much because it was a little spicy, but that also could have been the jalapenos. And then also throwing in some cheese. And we filled the peppers up, and then we sprinkled them with a little more cheese, and we baked them in the oven. And they turned out very good, but I did end up with a lot of extra filling, so I probably could have even cut up about 3 or 4 more, or 2 more bell peppers. And so in the end, we had some delicious cheesy bell peppers, and we served this with a side salad. Right, so the next night, Autumn actually had a sleepover with one of her friends. It was her first friend sleepover. We just ordered a pizza. But in the morning, I told her I would make some chocolate chip pancakes. So I whipped up a batch of just sourdough discard chocolate chip pancakes. And, pardon that messy sink. I cooked them up using this awesome griddle. I got this electric griddle for Christmas last year, and I am so happy that I got it. It makes making pancakes so easy. And I do tend to make a lot of pancakes because the girls love them, and it's just a fun thing to eat. And so if you are someone who makes a lot of breakfast foods, I highly suggest investing in a nice big griddle, because I can get these pancakes done lickety split. Okay, so we're going to be having some spaghetti for dinner, and we're going to make some garlic bread with it. And Autumn wanted to help again, so I had her chop the garlic for the bread with my fun little chopper thing. Now, I made this bread yesterday, so all we had to do was just slice it up and then put the butter and garlic on it. I was trying my hand at coming up with an Italian bread recipe using my fresh milled flour. While it didn't turn out exactly right, it was still very good, and the girls and Matt loved it. So I will probably keep trying to see if I can just get it a little bit better. And like I said before, I really love that the girls are showing more of an interest in what I am doing in the kitchen. So when I make garlic bread, it's really easy. I just use some softened butter, and I throw a little bit of salt with it and some garlic, and I blend that all together, and then I just simply spread it on to the pieces of bread that I have sliced. And soon you'll see here that Aubrey has decided that she also wants to get in on the action, and that she is going to try to stir the butter as well. And you'll see that I do this on tin foil because I just wrap the whole thing up in tin foil and then I put it in the oven at about 350 degrees. And I let that cook while I'm making my spaghetti. So I'm just using a simple Prego spaghetti, but I am going to throw some fresh basil into the mix because it makes it taste just a little bit better. Also, you can see there I was taking a look a little bit at Autumn's watermelon plant, which we're growing in an earth box. And I do have to say that I cannot wait until that first kind of cool day of fall or that fall-like summer day so I can make a batch of my homemade spaghetti sauce. The sauce that I make takes about 3 hours to cook on the stove, so I usually only do that in the fall or the winter when the weather is a little bit cooler, since it does definitely heat up the house. And I mean, there is nothing wrong with using jarred sauce. I'm using Prego today, and we do eat a lot of Prego spaghetti sauce in our house. But there is nothing better than that fresh batch of homemade spaghetti sauce. Right, so now that our meat is all cooked up, I am just going to throw in a jar of Prego. And what I like to do to help get the extra sauce out of the jar is to use a little bit of wine, red wine in it, and I just kind of shake it around, and that helps loosen up some of the last bits of the spaghetti sauce. And if I don't have wine, sometimes I even end up using a little bit of water, which just helps get that last bit of sauce out. And then after my last fiasco of trying to make noodles, I just went with some easy peasy boxed noodles. Right, so I just realized that my last recipe video that I did, we did tacos, and we're doing tacos again today. This time the kids were downstairs playing, so I did a little bit of the prep earlier in the day while they were playing and not bothering me. And like before, I like to just use the Tupperware that I'm going to store the toppings in to serve them from. It makes cleanup a lot easier. And I always just kind of dice my own lettuce instead of having to buy shredded lettuce. I feel like it saves me some money and it's a lot fresher. Then I also realize this is kind of a weird angle that perhaps makes me look slightly pregnant. I am not pregnant at all. It is just a very, very strange angle that I was cutting this avocado in. And then I have been shredding my own cheese for a few years now. I find that when you shred your own cheese, it just melts a lot nicer because there's none of that like anti-clumping agents that they put in shredded cheese so that it doesn't clump together in the store. But that makes it not melt quite as nice. And then I realized that we had no tortillas. And you can't really have tacos without tortillas. So I ended up making my own. They're not sourdough, but they are made with home milled flour. They didn't turn out exactly the way I had hoped, but my whole family said they were really tasty, so I will probably tweak the recipe a little bit and see if I can come up with something that is just slightly more pliable and flexible of a tortilla. And surprisingly, they didn't take a long time to make, which was nice because sometimes like tortillas and pitas can take a lot of time. And then I am simply using just boxed Spanish rice for a side. And we'll have some beans and some corn. And Aubrey has decided that she wanted to help this time. And while it doesn't look like it, there definitely is some taco seasoning in here. And there you have a delicious taco dinner. Right, last up is a smoked brisket. So for our smoked brisket, the night before we cover it in a dry rub. This is just a recipe we found either in a book or online. I mean, you can use whatever kind of rub you like to use on brisket. This one is pretty heavy with some brown sugar and pepper and salt and cumin. And then the next day, we put it on the smoker. Which is definitely not in its normal spot. Usually we have it on the pool area, but we've been trying to paint the pool deck, so it is in our backyard. And then later, while the smoker was going, I prepped some potatoes just for some simple oven fried potatoes. Now you can see that they were kind of starting to get some eyes, so I had to cut some of the eyes out, but they still work. So some olive oil, and then I just once again put a bunch of different spices in it. Usually it is pepper and seasoned salt, onion, paprika, garlic, a little bit of basil or pepper or parsley. And like I said, I'll just put those on a cookie tray and I just bake them in the oven at about 400 degrees, 425 degrees. And we also had some green beans. And you may notice the outfit change. That is because the brisket took way longer to smoke than we thought. So we ended up having brisket the day after we smoked it because it was not done until close to probably 10 or 11 o'clock at night. So thankfully, we had some other leftovers that Matt and I could have, and I just let the girls have some frozen pancakes. And then the next day, we were able to enjoy the brisket with the potatoes, and then I made some garlic green beans. And thankfully, the brisket tasted just as delicious the next day. Well, there you have it. I really hope that you enjoyed seeing what I have fed my family for the week. And hopefully it inspires you and gives you some good ideas. And as you could see from my meals, that they weren't all just completely from scratch homemade meals. And I think that people get into their heads that they really have to make all these super fancy meals for their family, but that's not the case. However you feed your family is great. So hopefully I've inspired you, and I will see you all later. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate everyone. Bye.